Spooky Lou Barker coming at you with a brand new WrestleRoni. Yeah, I'm going solo tonight. I'm going to have my show. Nobody's taking over. We are Marcus Twistless, and that's okay because standing in front of us, sitting in front of us very comfortably, in my opinion, still longest reigning Black Diamond Wrestling champion there could be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My very special guest, the great Sean Reznikk. How you doing today, my man?
I am doing just fine, my friend. I'm doing just fine.
Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on. You got a big show coming up this week. I wanted to cover that right out the gate because I think it's very important folks know about this tag team tournament coming up. The Eli Thomas Memorial Tag Team Tournament coming at you from Real Action Pro Wrestling. That's this Saturday, March 25th. Whereabouts is that? I know it's Youngstown, Ohio. Doors open 5:30 p.m. $12 gets you in the door. What's this tournament mean to you, Mr. Reznikk?
Means a lot, man. So I've had the opportunity in my day to bring some people into the wrestling business, you know what I mean, to show some people the ropes. And one of those people that I kind of introduced to the wrestling business is Eli Thomas. He was a great dude. He took to the wrestling business like he took it kind of like a fish to water, you know what I mean? Like he'd been around a lot, you know what I mean? He had been going to indie shows for a long time. I knew him from the backyard wrestling days. And and it was one of those things where it's like when he decided he wanted to come in, at first he just wanted to be a manager, and then he eventually became a competitor. And he was doing this for a while, had some issues with his weight. He's a big dude, but good dude, great guy. Everybody loved him. And unfortunately, right at the beginning, right at the offset of COVID, he had a health issue, and he ended up losing his life. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a COVID thing. It was something else going on. But he had a lot of people in his corner. So when we came back from COVID, one of the first things that we did at RAPW, at Real Action Pro Wrestling, was set up the Eli Thomas Memorial Tag Tournament. So this will be the second one. Last year's was a great event. But yeah, this is number 2. And I didn't get to compete last year because I wasn't doing anything as far as tag teams are concerned. I believe I had a title at the time. I believe I was Heritage Champion at the time. I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't in the tournament last year, but this year I get the opportunity to go in and quite frankly, I plan to win the whole damn thing. So
hell yeah. And you've got one hell of a tag team partner, a man I'm a big fan of personally and professionally, Mad Dog Zach Myers. Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Zach Myers?
Right. So Zach and I have gone back since pretty much he started wrestling. He, when he first came in and he was training, he was, when I first saw him and I first met him, he was still training at the time. The short dude with the big red beard. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was I was a little delusional. I was leader of a cult, so to speak. It was a weird time in my life. And he was somebody that I was trying to talk to and get into my deal. And I ended up unfortunately having to step away from the ring for a while, which of course ended up being a good thing, because then I, kind of put an end to all that stuff. But so I've known the man for a long time. And, once I came back, him and I, we kind of became fast friends. We've been across the ring from each other a couple times. But for the most part, we've been friends for a long time. And, we've been we actually tagged a couple of years ago in RAPW. This is right before him and Tristan became the good guys. And once they did the good guys thing, that kind of put an end to the idea of me and him tagging. But now that we're to the point now where it's like we can do that again, and we wanted to go ahead and do that, because that was something that we've been talking about for a long while. Mm-hmm. Mark Ass, our manager, or my manager, so to speak, he brought us together. He put us together as a team, and yeah, that's kind of like the epitaph, I guess. I don't know if I'm using that word right or not. Sometimes I know big words, sometimes I don't. But that's kind of like the story of how we came together as a tag.
Okay, okay. And hey, nothing wrong with being a cult leader for a bit. We all go through our cult leader phases in life. We've all been there.
Well, I
There's
mean, I've always said that I have kind of a God complex sometimes. It's just for a while there, I pretty much thought I was God, and it was a little delusional, but it's all good, you know.
hey,
I
hey,
wish I could blame it on LSD, but unfortunately I can't. So
uh-huh.
there you go.
I I know a cult leader myself, and I think the LSD has a big part to do with that. I'm not talking
Yeah,
about Matt
yeah.
Taylor.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, I've heard
yeah.
about Matt Taylor. I've heard about him. So I've seen the deal. He's a thinner, better looking version of what I was doing at the time, pretty much. So hey, good for him, man. If it works for him and that's what he's got going on, good on him.
There you go. The cult leader I had in mind, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Billy Knox. He's currently going on a false prophets tour, and he's taking out
Okay.
anybody that thinks they're a hippie cult leader. If they have something to do close to his gimmick, he's saying nah, or his lifestyle. He's saying nah.
Lifestyle, give me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
So yeah, and
Yeah.
call me crazy, but I could have swore I saw a awesome match between yourself and Mad Dog at BCW's Grave Encounters a few months back. Tell me a little bit about your BCW experience.
So yeah, so basically, with the VCW deal, I had heard, like I said, Zach and I have been friends for a long time, but I had heard through the grapevine that he had a lot of stuff going on with Beastman.
Mm-hmm.
Beastman and I go back even further, back to when he was before, when he was under a hood, when he was the bulldozer,
Uh huh.
and back even further than that when he was, I believe they called him Night Train. I think, I can't remember, but
Okay.
I've known Beastman for a long, long time, and basically I had heard that Zach was, he had some choice words for him. Those two were going back and forth, and Zach was doing this big boy challenge, Hoss challenge, whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
forget exactly what the terminology they were using for it was, but I was like, well, I'm a big boy. So I think I'm gonna try my hand at it, and kind of stick up for Beastman a little bit. Beastman and I haven't always been on the same page, but he's a guy I got a lot of respect for. So I was like, I'll take up for him. I'll go in there. I'll beat up my best friend. Whatever, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, if nothing else, we can have fun talking about it later. And that's what I did. Great match, one of the best matches I've had in a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up winning, which, I mean, not necessarily the best way. Beastman came out and he was a little bit distracted, so I rolled him up. I took advantage, but I mean, a win's a win is the way I look at it. I'm still looking for a chance to go back down there and try and kind of roll that into something more. So the powers that be at VCW, if you're listening, give me a call.
And they are, I guarantee it. So, yeah, hey, man, that's a big deal because I tell you what, Zach's been on fire. He has a win
Yeah.
over Beastman. He has a win over Billy Knox. He has a win over a bunch of big men in VCW.
Yep. Yeah, I
So,
saw that. I saw that. That's why I got to give this a shot because he's on a roll, and if I can, if I can go in, if I can weasel my way in there and maybe knock him on his ass a little bit, maybe I can get myself, get some stock up for myself.
well, hey, congrats on the win, but unfortunately, you didn't humble the man. He still thinks
Nah.
he's the cock of the walk.
Hey, like I said, I mean, we're teaming. So like I said, I gotta say that I definitely think that he's got that fire and he's got that potential. But obviously he's got what he's going on, what he's doing down there. And if I come back down there and our paths cross, our paths cross. But I'm focusing on what I got going on here. Me and him are up here doing what we got to do. In Real Action Pro Wrestling. So, but if anything, if our paths cross in other places, we might got to come to blows again. We'll see. It's whatever.
You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely, I'm an equal opportunity ass kicker. I don't give a crap. So,
I appreciate that. This tag tournament looks pretty stacked, and you've got the right man for the job. I
yeah,
know Zach is going places in wrestling. I've said myself, he's definitely he's solid in the ring,
yep.
but he's really got a mind for things too. Uh,
That's his best. That's his best attribute, man. And that's why we work so well together. I've always said that I am. I've always said myself that I'm probably more of a mediocre wrestler, so to speak. And I only say that because I don't do a lot of flashy stuff. You know what I mean? I hit people hard. And I try and put you down. And I don't get paid by the hour. My entire point is to go in there and win a match. So
mhm.
I don't do a lot of crazy flippy crap. You know what I mean? I do what I need to do. I'm pretty agile for being as big as I am, but I don't play games. You know what I mean? I'm more of a cerebral guy. I think about things and I see things and I strategize. So that's why Zach and I work well together, because we're more thinkers when it comes to being out there. You know what I mean? We know what we want to do, and we try and we find that weakness and we exploit it. So that's why we work really well. And you're right, he's definitely got a mind for it. His mind is actually his strongest weapon, aside
Agreed.
from them forearms.
And that says something, because, like I say, he's a hell of an athlete. He can go in the ring, but I've always looked at Zach, and man, if that dude ever starts his own promotion or whatever, man, WWE or AEW, hire this guy backstage. Tim Cross can't stand all the ideas he throws at him, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, Tim, I was gonna say, Tim. I'm sure Zach has brought me up a few times, and I'm sure Tim Cross has been like, that guy. No, I'm good.
Well, and to the audience, I'm glad you brought that up. You're no stranger to RSW. During the pandemic days, they brought you in for a spell. How was the RSW experience?
I mean, it was fine. I think I wrestled 3 total matches during the pandemic when they were doing their things in the little studio that they had going on. I
Mhm.
wrestled Zach there one time. It was a fun match. He beat me in that one. Um, and then I wrestled DD Vice at one point too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wrestled DD Vice in one of his first matches back before him and Marcus became a tag team, before they became a thing. And that was a fun match. You know what I mean? It was anytime I get to be in there with a big dude who hit you hard, I'm gonna have a good time. So I don't remember what the third match was. I think it was some sort of a 3-way or something. I think I ended up getting knocked out by that dude who threw a lot of punches.
Okay.
Um, I don't remember. I can't remember his name, but I remember there was another match I had done at some point, and I'd done a couple matches there. I was going to go back down. But I just never ended up going back down and never got another call. So
Tim, get your shit together, Tim. My
it's all
goodness.
good. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. It's all good. I understand that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm fortunate enough to edit RSW TV and all of our mini productions, so I have a
Yeah.
hard drive filled with our entire library. So I'm gonna dig up that match with you and DD Vice, get it up on the channel for folks that's curious. Because hell yeah, man, we're big DD Vice fans here. We're fastly becoming big fans of Sean Reznikk, so I think that'll be something fun for the fans.
Good.
Let's
I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, let's whip it back to this tournament, because that's the reason I had you on here. I want to,
Yep.
talk about this tournament, promote it. Uh, Pretty stacked tournament. It looks like in the first round you got Spike St. James and JP Levin. Am I saying that right?
I believe so. Honestly, I don't know. He hasn't been around very long. I think it's JP Levin.
Hmm.
He's only had a couple of shots at RIPW currently. I was a little bit taken aback when I saw this, because I was just like, do they know who they're putting them in the ring with? Spike knows exactly what it's like to be in the ring with me and Zach, because Spike and Zach, we had a triple threat match a few months back. It
Hmm.
was it was a triple threat match for my heritage title. I believe it was for the belt. I'm not 100% positive on that one. Sometimes, brain scrambling, things meld together.
For
I do
sure.
remember there was a triple threat match, so he knows exactly what it's like to be in the ring with me and Zach. So I don't think I don't imagine he's too happy with that situation. I don't know much about JP. Like I said, I've seen him in the locker room. I've seen him in the backstage area, and all I can say is, as far as that match is concerned, is Oofa. We again, me and Zach, we don't get paid by the hour, and I don't think it's going to take us very long before we move on to round two. But I'm not going to say I've never been in a ring with a smaller guy who's put me on my back. It's happened a few times, so I don't want to get too cocky, but at the same time, there's a reason that I always say that my favorite vegetable is squash. So
I like that. And I'll be the first to say, in this day and age, it's anybody's ball game. It's not a big man's game anymore. Anybody
no,
can beat
definitely
anybody
not.
on ink. But to take a look at this graphic and to see you two and to see those two, we're talking on the left side, two big, beefy, tattooed lunatics, and on the other side, But hey, best of luck to you. Let's look at the.
Listen. I'll say it like this. I've been in the ring with Spike before, and he hits hard. He will knock you around, but he's also like 10 pounds. And the last time I was in the ring with him, I threw him across the ring like it was nothing. So we'll see. Again, like I said, I'm not going to say Spike's tough. That is one thing I will say about Spike. He is a tough son of a bitch. He can take a beating and keep coming back. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be a walk in the park or anything like that. We may have to do a number of things in order to keep Spike's shoulders down for the 1, 2, 3. Again, like I said, this isn't nothing bad, nothing disrespectful against JP. I just don't have as much experience seeing his stuff or anything like that. But I've known Spike for a long time. I've been in the ring with Spike on a number of occasions, so I know what he's capable of. But when you got two dudes like me and Zach who think alike, who think the way that we think, I can't imagine those two having much of a chance against us. But again, they may surprise us. Who knows? But that's going to be the first. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm going in there thinking we're just going to steamroll those dudes and go on to whoever we're coming up on in round 2, and then hopefully in the finals. So.
And that JP could work to his advantage. You not knowing
it could
him,
absolutely. I don't know shit about him, so it could be. He might have some crazy kick that could knock me senseless. I don't know. We'll see.
Right on. Anything can happen. It's pro wrestling.
Absolutely.
Let's look at the next match. In an ideal world, would you rather face the team of Ray Stewart? And it looks like DLA I'm seeing on this graphic.
Yeah.
And then you got Rage to Riches. I like to play on words there. So, what are you thinking on the next round?
That's a tough one. Because me and Ray Stewart, we were me, Ray Stewart, Zach. We were all on a tag, and DLA actually. The 4 of us. It was the 4 of us, and God, who was our? Was it just the 4 of us, or was there somebody? I can't remember, but. There was it was an 8-man tag a few months back, and the 4 of us were actually on a team, and we won. We won that match. I mean, I'm not going to say that there wasn't things that went in our favor. Big man, the RPW heavyweight champion, Vinny Maverick. He turned his back on the bouncer and put him down. So I mean, it was a little bit easier because of that. But I mean, we were. But me and Ray were the last 2 dudes in that match against the bouncer. We won. Well, it was against the bouncer because Vinny was technically on their team, but then he turned his back. He turned over.
Right on.
But so it would be interesting. Ray he's one of those quick dudes. He's deceptively tall. Mm-hmm. He's deceptively strong. He looks kind of thin, but he's a fantastic wrestler. DLA is one of those people who is absolutely somebody I don't want to cross paths with too much. He's a tough dude also, so realistically, I would really rather not face either of those dudes. But on the other hand, then you've got Rage to Riches, and those dudes, they were the RPW tag team champions for like a year. You know what I mean? So that's another one. It's like, I don't know if I necessarily want to get in there with those two. You got Joe Zook, big Luke Harper looking boy. And then you've got his tag partner whose name's escaping me right now. So, and I want to apologize to him. He wasn't at the last RPW show. He had something going on, But I mean, they were the tag team champions for a long time. So realistically, I wouldn't want to wrestle either team, honestly. But I guess if I had to really say, I'd probably say Rage to Riches, simply because they haven't, they haven't been, they didn't last show, they weren't together. So they may not be exactly on the same page like they used to be. I don't know, but I think I'd probably rather wrestle those guys because they've just recently lost the tag titles too. So, they don't really have momentum on their side. So I'd probably much rather go against those two than Ray and DLA.
Ah, I like the thought process. And I want to let the fans know, too, and the listeners know, you're not a spring chicken when it comes to this wrestling scene. From what my research, looks like you've been in the game since 2004.
Yeah, man, I'm going on almost 20 years, 19 years as of May.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
I've definitely been doing this for a long. I got way more days behind me than I do ahead of me. That's for sure when it comes to wrestling.
Well, has it been a good journey? I mean,
I mean, it's had its ups and downs. You know what I mean? Like I had, like at the beginning, I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of wrestling in Pittsburgh and West Virginia and things like that. I did a lot of wrestling my first couple years. Then there was a dark period where for about a year and a half or so, I wasn't wrestling a lot. I was only working a few shows here and there. And then I kind of blew up again and I was working a lot of shows. And I kind of winded down after COVID.
mm-hmm.
I was working before COVID. I wasn't doing a ton of shows. But I was doing I was wrestling at Black Diamond. I was wrestling at Real Action Pro Wrestling. Anywhere else at that time, because again, I had taken some time off before that too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't wrestle anywhere for, I believe it was like 6 or 8 months, something like that. And then COVID happened. So we didn't we weren't wrestling, almost at all for that period of time. Like I said, except for that little spell at RSW at Real Shoot. There wasn't a lot going on during COVID. And then when we came back from COVID, I haven't really wrestled a lot of places, parted ways with Black Diamond Wrestling. Never lost the Black Diamond Wrestling Heavyweight Championship.
That's
I
right.
know, I know that they have crowned champions since then, since everybody walked out of that place. And, they had Jay Rue's group of guys there, and they had Harley T. Morris was their champion. Been in the ring with him a few times. A little bit of a cocky prick, but whatever. Whatever he's got to do. He's in great shape, so I can't really give him too much shit there.
Right.
But in my opinion, I never lost that title. I beat Nathan Aldridge for it. He was no good Nathan Aldridge. I beat that man for that title, and he was champion for how long? And I was the guy that took it off of him. So as far as I'm concerned, even though I don't have the physical title, I'm still the Black Diamond heavyweight champion. That's all
Damn right. Damn right. And major props on beating my boy Nathan Aldridge. That dude. If there, I gotta say, I'm probably the biggest Nathan Aldridge fan. My tongue always wants to put the D in there. Aldridge fan.
Yeah. Yeah. He Nathan, listen, I think when I beat him for that title, I think it was right when he was in the middle, or it was like right when he was in the middle of his weight loss deal. Mm-hmm. He was still a big boy at the time, I think. It's been a minute, so I really can't say too much. I can't remember too much, but I don't remember if he had dropped all that weight before I beat him or not. But he's one of the only dudes. There's only been 3 people on the indies that I've been in the ring with, or I've been in the vicinity of with, that I can say, throw the clothesline or throw the lariat, whatever you want to call it, like I do. 2 other people other than myself. Nathan's one of them, and then the other one is Shane Taylor. So,
wow,
yeah,
high praise.
Yeah, well, Shane Taylor he'll knock the stuffing out of people. So I really can't, I would never put any disrespect on that man's name, let me tell you. No. But he's one of the only other people that throws that like I do, and you know what I mean, like Nathan does. So, but yeah, I was lucky enough I was able to avoid that. I don't think I took that from him. But he definitely felt mine. So,
and I'm glad you brought up Black Diamond. On the show, I'm trying to cover as much of the history of West Virginia independent wrestling as I can.
Yeah.
Can you share with the audience some of your better memories of the organization before shit went south, as everybody, or if you know, you know, if you don't know, don't worry about it. But
Listen,
besides winning the belt.
Black Diamond started shortly before I started working in 2004. It had started right before that. They had started running shows, you know what I mean? They were the first, they were the first place where you got to see a guy, I don't know, that guy Joaquin Wild,
Yeah.
WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He wrestled his first show with Black Diamond. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a place that a lot of people have been to. I wrestled there. Gosh, I wrestled there when they were in the Wheeling. I don't even remember the name of the place. I don't remember the name of it. It was like it was some sort of a requisition area or something like that, like a recreational area.
Okay.
The NJC, I think, is what it was called. I
Okay.
think that's what it's called. I don't know. It's in Wheeling. It's just on the out. It's like right on the edge of downtown, and it was like it was like back in the woods, and like how you drove up there. There was this sharp hill on the side, so if you veered over, you were going down this thing, and it was I was there for that. I was there when they had another building kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I was there the whole time they were at the high school, the old high school gymnasium or whatever that they were at before
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened and everything went down. So, I mean, I wrestled at Black Diamond for a long time. Like they, they were one of the major places that I've wrestled. I think out of all the places that I've wrestled in the 19 years that I've been in the business, I think they may be number two as the most. And the only reason I can say that I can say RIPW would be the biggest one or the most that I had wrestled it in is because they've had a longevity time. Plus, there was a 2 or 3 year period where RIPW was they wrestled. There was every week. It was a Tuesday. They were Tuesday night shows at this bar in Barberton, Ohio. So
Huh.
that's the only reason I could say that I've wrestled there more than anywhere else. And then it's probably Black Diamond second, PWX third, because I wrestled there. That's where I trained. That's where I wrestled at for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But Black Diamond would probably be, I would say that at one point I would have called them home, you know what I mean? Because they were Rick Diamond, the promoter, he treated me really well the entire time I was there for the most part. I can't, like I said, again, if you know, and I walked away because of that whole situation, but my experience with Rick was never bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
as much as I definitely don't condone what he did or what had happened, I never had a ton of negative things to say about the man. So, I'll just leave it at that as far as that part is concerned. But I wrestled, gosh, for so long. I remember when they got their hands on the old WWE ring or WWF ring or whatever that was inside the old Pittsburgh Civic Arena. I remember wrestling in a 20-foot ring for the first time ever. I was wrestling Iceman Tony Johnson, and I was like, how many steps do I have to take to get across this ring? Because before then, the biggest I'd ever wrestled in was an 18-foot ring, and even that was a stretch. You know what I mean? Because most indie rings are only 16 feet, but
Okay.
I wrestled in that 18-footer, and then I wrestled in the 20-foot ring that Black Diamond had. I think I only wrestled in that like twice, I think, and then he repurposed most of it and didn't use the 20-foot beams or whatever. But yeah, I wrestled for Black Diamond for a long time. I mean, it was the go-to place for a lot of young dudes that wanted to get work. You know what I mean? There was a lot of people. They didn't have a lot of places to go. There was a long period of time where there wasn't a lot of places to go in indie wrestling. And now, we kind of have that boom nowadays where there's a lot of places you can go in West Virginia. There's a lot of places you can go in Ohio. There's a lot of places you can go in Pennsylvania. Not as many in Pennsylvania, but West Virginia, Ohio is pretty full. But yeah, I can't, like I said, again, with what went down and what ended that situation or whatever, but I can't say enough good things about my time at Black Diamond.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I say, I've heard a lot of folks have very fond memories of Black Diamond. So,
Absolutely. I mean, hell, it's one of the first places that, one of the guys that finished training me took me and got me work there. So,
you do have me scratching my head a bit. You said WWE, the way you make it sound at least, WWE left the ring at the Igloo Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, and dude got it.
so,
How'd he get his
so
hands on the WWE ring?
from what I understand, back in the 80s, I believe it was in the 80s, when WWE went to a lot of places that they went to a lot, they just stored a ring at that location. Like I'd imagine there's probably one or two rings stored somewhere in Madison Square Garden because they went there so often.
Huh.
But from what I understand, the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, they had a ring there that they kept there, and it was there for a lot of years. And then I believe somebody ended up getting it. It was used as a training ring in some garage that it was barely big enough to fit into, and then that's how Rick got it. I mean, it wasn't like he got it directly from the Igloo or anything like that. I'm pretty sure the Pittsburgh Civic Arena had been torn down well before he had gotten it. But from what I understand, the lineage of that ring was that it was an old WWE ring that they just kind of left in the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, and then right before they tore the Civic Arena down and moved over to the Mellon Arena, which then they changed that, and they're the PPG paints or whatever. But it got sold, and then Rick had gotten it from there. Yeah.
I'll be. I have a lot of great memories at the Igloo growing up, going up to see WWE. It's crazy some of the artifacts you'll come across in wrestling. I was just on a show recently where we had the original ECW ring bell. So we were using.
Okay.
So the story goes. You know how things.
Sure. Oh yeah, of course.
Here and there.
Yeah, you never know. It's tell a friend, tell a phone, tell a wrestler. You never know.
Exactly. So
as Conrad would say.
And you'd mentioned this boom. I've seen the indies really take off recently. I attribute a lot of it to streaming availability. I can watch, a random indie in San Francisco live as it happens if I want to. Since you've been in the business so long, can you tell me when you started to see things pick up and how you saw things evolve?
So it's weird, right? It's hard to really say because I don't like to be negative, but I mean, I could go on a rant about negativity and things like that in the area as well. When I first started, like it was right when TNA first was picking up. Because when I first started, I wrestled at a place called PWX. That's where I trained at. And at the time, they weren't PWX; they were NWA East. Because the NWA at that point still existed as a territory system. Jim Miller, the promoter of PWX, was the NWA president at the time. And, he kind of, he was there when TNA first started and stuff like that. So that was when TNA first became a thing. And that whole thing, because I started training and I didn't start wrestling until 2004, but I actually started training in 2002. Okay. So that's when that whole thing had begun, and TNA was starting then. Ring of Honor was still going strong. I had never really known much of anything about indie wrestling when I started at PWX training and everything like that. But I mean, it was pretty strong back then. Pretty strong in a light sense, because I mean there wasn't a lot of places to work, but the South had so many places to work. The biggest thing was when I started, there was a lot of promotions, but because Pittsburgh kind of fractured itself and splintered itself off, you had PWX with Jim Miller, you had Norm Connors with IWC, and then you had Powerhouse Hughes with CWF. And Powerhouse, CWF was the only place where you could see guys from IWC and NWA East or PWX or whatever wrestle each other, because Norm and Jim didn't get along, or they kind of splintered off of each other. Okay. But there was a big, long Pittsburgh indie wrestling war where you couldn't work one place if you worked the other, and it was a lot of ridiculous stuff. But it's whatever, shit happens. But I think, honestly, as far as when stuff really started to take off, gosh, I mean, like I said, there was a lot of low-grade indie places to work most of the time that I've been working. I'm trying to think. I would say it really started taking off around the time AIW started getting real big, because AIW kind of splintered off from Cleveland All Pro.
Okay.
You know, Gargano came out, and he kind of blew up a lot of places in the Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
Erica the Viking Raiders came out of the Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so probably I mean, honestly, I don't want to start just talking out my ass, you know what I mean, or anything like that. Because honestly, obviously lately, since AEW has been a thing, it's gotten huge again as far as indie wrestling is concerned. But I mean, it's kind of been up and down for a long time. So and the thing too for me is like, you know, there's like lately I've gotten back into a lot of the indie stuff lately because I was out of it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'd gotten married at one point and I didn't have a lot of time to really do a lot of stuff. So I didn't really see as much as I had used to before that and after that. So
Right.
It's hard. Like I said, it's really hard for me to kind of say when things really started blowing up. Obviously, AEW like really kind of put everything in with wrestling in the stratosphere, you know, Game Changer, you know, shit like that. I mean, there's not been a better time to be an indie wrestler. You can actually make a living off of wrestling, not working for WWE or AEW. I mean, it's not going to be the most glamorous of lifestyles, but you can do it. You know what I mean? That could be your sole wage earnings. You know what I mean? I always say that I either came too early in wrestling or too late in wrestling. You know, because when I came in, if you were either a lucha, you were either a lucha guy or you were a big buff, you know, 7-foot guy. You know what I mean? You didn't have a lot of room for the 5'9" fat dudes. You know what I mean? Who could do things, who could do a lot of the stuff. You know, Kevin Steen, while he was a great wrestler, if you'd have told me that Kevin Steen was eventually going to be Kevin Owens and the WWE champion or the Universal champion or whatever, I'd have told you were fucking nuts.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if I really would have known what the way wrestling was going to become, you know, I really would have put a lot more time and effort into things at the beginning instead of looking at it as like a hobby like I had for so long. And now I'm just too fucking old to really do anything about it. But, but yeah, so to make a short story long, so.
But yeah, and you said, you know, it's a good time to be an independent wrestler, and I say it all the time on the show. There's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan, period. I mean,
there's so much wrestling out there. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Like, you get these people that argue all the time, WWE versus AEW. You could take both of those away. You can take AEW and WWE away and still watch a shit ton of wrestling and be entertained by all of it. You know what I mean? The tribalism among wrestling fans is bullshit. You know,
shit's insane.
In my opinion.
Hey, since day one, when AEW was announced, I was on board. I loved Cody. I loved the Bucks. I loved Omega. I loved Hangman. I said, this is perfect. And right until, I think it was either SmackDown or Raw I was watching a couple weeks ago, and I was like, well, hell, I'm finally favoring WWE over AEW. But I've watched them both. There was a time where WWE was so fucking terrible that I didn't watch it. I would watch the pay-per-views, but I couldn't watch the TV. But yeah, the tribalism shit, you know, like what you like, but I tell anybody, give something else a shot. Try some lucha. Try some Canadian wrestling.
Just get on indiewrestling.net or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can pay $10 a month and you can watch more fucking wrestling than you would ever be able to see in your lifetime if you really spend enough time to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and to all the local wrestling fans, he's got a good point. IWTV, there's a lot of West Virginia wrestling on there as well. NWA out of West Virginia. I mean, yeah, we could go on all day. YouTube is such a valuable resource and so underrated when it comes to pro wrestling.
I agree.
Just there's tons of organizations that have their promotion on there. RSW has weekly TV now. We could go on all day, but there's definitely so many avenues right now for, like you say, for your side of things and for my side of things. It's a good time to be a fan or a worker.
Absolutely, for sure.
So, what are we looking at down the pike? You say you're slowing down, but do you have any goals left, or are we just kind of riding?
Um, so at this point, I'm just kind of going. I'm letting my body tell me what I can and can't do.
Mhm.
Would I love to wrestle in a bunch of places again? Absolutely. My problem is like to me traveling isn't what it used to be. You
Mhm.
know, I've got a good gig going on. You know, I've got a decent shoot job, so to speak,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with where I'm at in life. You know what I mean? So at this point, wrestling to me, I don't want to say it's a hobby because it'll never be a hobby because I still spend more money on that than almost any fucking thing else in my life. Um, but would I love to get back out there and have a career renaissance, so to speak? 100%.
Mhm.
Um, I'm I'm not going to beat people's doors down though. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. I want to try and put some time and effort into it. I do. You know what I mean? Like I want to because like here's the thing, like I can still do it. You know what I mean? I can still do it at a decent enough level. In my opinion, I've gotten myself back into decent shape. You know what I mean? Like I was when I first started, I was really not in good shape. It was my first, I'd say my first. God, I started in '04. '07 is when I really looked at myself and I said, okay, I really need to figure this out because this is not fun sometimes. You know what I mean?
Uh
And
huh.
I think in 2010, I went on a big. I really started getting into better shape. I'd gotten into really good shape for a number of years. You know what I mean? And then life happened, and I kind of fluctuated a little bit. I was kind of going up and down, and then right before COVID hit, and around the time COVID hit, I got back into worse shape, and it was rough. It was rough there for a few minutes. One of the reasons why I didn't go to a lot of places and wrestle in a lot of places is because I didn't feel like I could go. You know what I mean? Like I used to be
Mhm.
able to when I was wrestling every week on Tuesday nights in a little bar in Barberton, and I was in the best shape of my life. I was never thin, but I was in the best shape of my life, and I would do 15-minute matches like they were nothing. You know what I mean? Whereas when I was younger, when I first started wrestling, I'd be sucking wind after 2.5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Uh
So
huh.
um, and I just got back to the point where I'm like, I feel like I can do that again. Which go figure. Then I'm back into a tag team right after that, but that's okay. It'll give me a chit. Listen, I get to work. I get to work with Zach, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, and so that's going to be fun for as far as that's concerned. And then, but you know, I'm hoping like I'd love to get back down and go back to real shoot. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun when I was there. I'm not sure what Tim didn't see in me or what anybody else didn't see in me. I don't know. It might be my attitude. I'm a very introverted person. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm not very outgoing in a lot of ways. People might have seen me as kind of stuck up because I sat by myself or I'd only sat with the good guys and Zeke Mercer. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know. I'd love to get back down to VCW. I'd love to turn those two into a couple places that I work quite a bit often. Them and RAPW, you know what I mean? I'd love to be sore all fucking week again after working 3 shows in a weekend. You know what I mean? That'd be great.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna beat people's doors down and take spots from young dudes who are in much better shape than I am. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If they've got a spot for me, I'll gladly take it. I will put on the best match I could possibly put on, and I will do what I need to do. And if something happens and I start working more and I get more buzz because because I put myself back in better shape. I've always said I have a mind for it versus the body for it. You know what I mean? A couple people,
Mhm.
I train people. I've trained people in the past, and even when people said I shouldn't, and I produced some good quality talent. Bray McKenzie is one of mine. You know what I mean? So Kit Page,
Mhm.
Thomas Adams, who hasn't been out in the ring in a while, but he's another one of the guys I put out there. So, I'd love to be a coach. I'd love to just that if I could retire and coach, I'd 100% do that.
Oh yeah.
Because that's I love teaching people, in the business. But yeah, I mean, as far as that's concerned, I'm going to get to do what I've been wanting to do for a while, and that's team with Zach And if everything goes the way that I want it to go and the way Zach wants it to go, you're looking at the Eli Thomas Memorial Tag Team Tournament winners coming this Saturday, and then the winner of that show, the winner of that tournament, so whatever, they get a title shot. They get a tag title shot at the RIPW tag titles at the next show in April. April. So if everything is all said and done and all goes well the way that I want it to go, in April, you're going to be looking at and new tag team champion. So, that's just all there is to it. And then, we'll go from there and we'll see where things go from there. Because like I said, I feel like me and Zach, we fit together so well as a tag team, I think. And it's like, this isn't nothing against Tristan. It's nothing against Frat Daddy, so to speak. You know what I mean? Him and Zach did great as the good guys, but they were a very odd couple pairing, but they made it work. But Zach and I are much more compatible, and I feel like we're gonna I feel like when people see what we're capable of and what we're gonna do, they're gonna want to bring us places. So
yeah, there's a ton of potential. That has me excited. I hope there's, I can't make it there to the show live on Saturday, but you guys are definitely my picks. I hope there's some way we can at least see clips online, because I
actually plan on doing some video work myself. I've got my own camera. I'm not gonna put the whole match up there because they RIP Real Action Pro Wrestling, they have their own tapes and they tape it and they put them out. Kind of staggering them well after the events close, because they want to get people in the doors. But I'll definitely have my own footage of it that I want to use for things. So absolutely.
Cool. Gives me something to look forward to. I brag all the time. One of the cool benefits, one of the best benefits of being in this business is some of the cool matches I get in my DMs that nobody else can see. So I'm just kind of throwing that
right.
out there
Absolutely.
just letting you know it is appreciated. So
yeah, for sure.
And another thing I kind of wanted to touch on, you had mentioned you were in shape, out of shape, this and that. I'm nobody to talk about being in shape. Believe me, I'm so out of shape, it's terrible. But to me, in my mind, and tell me if I'm crazy. Tell me if you saw the same thing or if I'm crazy. But growing up, going to indies here in West Virginia, we're talking 1996 to probably 2000 or so. A lot of the workers weren't in the greatest of shape, and some of the top guys, they didn't have the body, but I don't remember any matches going long, nothing super crazy athletic, at least in West Virginia. But then you had TNA and Ring of Honor come around in 2002, 2003, and I talked about it on the show before. I'll never forget the first time I saw Violent Vance Desmond, and he actually had a match in Fairmont with, I forget his name, his working name then, but the man currently known as Elias in WWE. And it really...
Logan Shulo.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. And it blew my mind that I could see wrestling like this right there in Fairmont, West Virginia. I didn't think that could happen. So am I just nuts, or did you see something similar as well around this time?
Yeah. So, I mean, absolutely. Like, there was a lot of local places where you could see a lot of dudes, that at that point in time. My first few actual shows were down in the deepest, to pay homage to Beastman, deepest, darkest West Virginia. My first match ever, I was in a tag team with a guy. I believe I tagged with a guy. I either tagged with him or I was across the ring with him. What his name was, JR Slam, and I can't remember exactly everything that went on that one, but that was definitely one of those. That was definitely one of those matches down there. But it's funny you should bring up Violent Vance Desmond. I don't think I wrestled him, but I definitely worked on a lot of earlier shows where he was at. Funny story, actually.
Sweet.
Somebody that I'm sure you've seen quite a bit is Jason Kincaid.
Oh yeah, big fan.
So my third or fourth match ever was against him.
Okay.
I don't remember much about it. but I do remember that he was one of the first. He was one of those people that I wrestled very early on in my wrestling career, and it was definitely interesting because he was very much like me back then. He didn't say a lot. He didn't really. I was super excited, all hopped up on energy drinks, and
Mm-hmm.
he was just like calm as a cucumber sitting there. You know what I mean? And you know, we had a. I don't remember if the match was any good. It was probably bad, and it was probably my fault. But the point, point being, he was one of the early people that I wrestled. But yeah, I mean, as far as like local talent is concerned, like I said, I didn't know much about the indies when I got into the independents. Like I'd seen a couple of indie shows in the Youngstown area. You know, because they had legends on them, you know what I mean? And they were
Mm-hmm.
local enough for me. You know, the one show had Visser on it. I don't remember if he was Mabel at the time or if he was Visser at the time, but he was on it. There was another show, and then they had one with Jerry the King Lawler on it. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I seen a lot of those earlier shows, you know what I mean? And it was always great to be able to see, to be able to see people that you don't see on TV all the time, that you didn't see on TV, people that you didn't know who they were, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. It was definitely some fun times. But I like I said, I had only seen a few of them before I got into the wrestling business. I was going to college when I got hooked up with PWX NWA East, and that was my introduction, so to speak, to the independent wrestling world.
And it could be argued around that time frame that no, the style's changing. Ring of Honor was popular, the X Division was
Yep.
popular, but I know the locker rooms I'm in now. These dudes are in shape. They're next level. You can just see. I say it all the time. Through pro wrestling, you can see the human race evolving. The shit that
Yeah.
people's doing and the guys taking care of themselves are doing crazy. Violent Vance Desmond still as buff and still going as strong as he was back then when you saw him. I promise you that. And
Yeah.
there's so many great, just talented. Man, we could start wrestling promotions all day with all these talented people that's out
Oh,
here.
absolutely. There's so many people out there. It's not even funny.
Name
You know,
some
Zach and
names.
I.
Throw some names out there for folks.
Yep.
Yeah,
What's that?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go. What you're gonna say?
Oh, I was just going to say, let the folks know as far as some independent talent that you've seen, whether it be on TV or you're right there in the locker room, some up and comers that's kind of impressed you recently.
Um. So, I mean, as far as stuff like that is concerned, Zoe Sky.
Okay.
She was recently on. She was recently on AEW Dark as Zoe Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
She's somebody that I've been in the ring with a few times. You know, I remember it's one of those situations. Not to pull back the curtain too much here. Like I like to try not to do too much of that. But I've been in the ring with her, and I can remember very vividly. She's 150 pounds, if that. And I can remember very vividly, like taking a forearm from her and going, what was that?
Okay.
Because she just puts every ounce of her weight into it. You know what I mean? And I would, and she could take anything you dish out to her. You know what I mean? I think she went to dive on me in a match that I wrestled against her, and I swung a kendo stick, and it cracked so hard against her head, and I was like, holy crap, I killed her. And it was, you know what I mean? She's tough. She's she's nuts and that kind of stuff. I mean, so as far as she's concerned, she's definitely one of those people that I think deserves more. I think she should be on AEW every fucking week. She should have a contract.
Okay.
As far as people that have impressed me, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I shared a locker room with Didi Vice, and I thought Didi Vice was one of those guys. And like I said, he was so young. He had only worked a few times, a handful of times. And I was super impressed by what he could do, his character work or whatever you want to
Yes.
call him. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And of course, Zach's a big fan of him too. So, he's like, you got to watch this guy. And I was like, all right, I'm going to watch him. You know what I mean? And then Zeke Mercer, another guy, fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Remy LeVay, I've been in the ring with Remy LeVay a number of times. Love that dude.
Yeah.
Andrew Palace in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
PWX. He's always impressed me. I wrestled him early in my career. You know what I mean? He's a good one. Dior Castro, another guy I've shared locker rooms with that I think is fantastic. I'm not really a big fan of the boxing trunks that he wears, but that's just me. Great young talent, good dude. Oh God, what's the dude? The rugby guy, Julian. What? I don't know his last name.
Ooh, where's he out of?
He wrestles VCW, or not VCW. I know he's wrestled RSW a number of times. He's a part of a tag team. He's a black guy.
Uh-huh.
I forget his name, but he's got a rug. He comes out with a rugby ball. I wrestled him at RAPW. He came in and wrestled me. Fantastic. He's one of the IWC trainees. Was. Chris LaRusso trained him.
Right.
But he's another one that I saw that I thought was really good.
If you're talking about who I think you're talking about, I believe you're talking about shoot, why can't I think of his last name now? But I believe he's part of the Brotherhood now. Does that sound right to you?
I believe that's the name. Yeah, that sounds right.
Mm-hmm. He was recently in our tag team tournament in RSW, and those guys definitely turned some heads.
Yes. And yeah.
You mentioned Dior. Dior will be on the show next episode, actually, with Brotherly Love, our new RSW Tag Team Champions.
Oh, another person that I want to give a huge shout out to, Jack Pollock.
Okay.
From IWC, fantastic. He started coming around to Pittsburgh back, years ago, 2012, I think. I don't remember. It was a long. He wrestled. He started coming around PWX shows. He was around IWC shows, and a lot of people didn't want to give him the time of day because he kept talking about how he trained with Lance Storm, and people were like, pick that name up. You think you're a superstar, and he kept coming. And eventually he was working, and he started wrestling for PWX. Now he's at IWC. He's been IWC champion. Fantastic dude. I love that dude. Matt Connard. My God, I love that man. I love that. I swear to God. I wish that I was in better shape when I wrestled Matt Connard. I wrestled Matt Connard at Black Diamond Wrestling when he was Black Diamond Wrestling heavyweight champion. I stole the title from him, and we had a bit of a gimmick, and I just didn't. I feel like the matches were just, they weren't good, and it was my fault. I don't feel like I was in any shape to wrestle the guy. But Matt Connard's another one. Sorry, I know I keep kind of flipping around and going around with dudes that I'm, but again, like I said, with Jack Pollock, we gave him an opportunity. A friend of mine from a friend of mine bought a ring back in 2007. And that's when I started getting into training people. We had a promotion called HBW in Youngstown. Okay. It's hardcore. It started as hardcore brutal wrestling. We did a lot of deathmatch stuff. And then once we kind of stopped doing the deathmatch stuff, we became high stakes battleground wrestling. And, it was a little bit different. It was kind of an ECW type vibe because a lot of the dudes that we used were, well, I'll just be honest. At first, a lot of the dudes were still going through training because he literally said, I'm buying a ring, show them how to bump and run the ropes. So I did.
Right on.
And a lot of them weren't good, but they got better. And a lot of them wrestled for a long period of time. A lot of people only wrestled in HBW. A lot of people, kind of ventured out and wrestled in other places. You know what I mean? I always look at HBW as the best time of my career because that's when I trained people. That's when I finally figured out, I realized when I was training a couple dudes, I was like, these guys get it and they're good. Oh. Like if I'm showing them how to wrestle and they're this good, I have to be this good.
There you go.
So that's when I started getting into shape, and I started getting good, and I started having really good matches, and then I got out of shape again. But yeah, Jack Pollock is another one. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else that's really kind of turned my head. It's hard for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many, but it's hard for me. Most of the people that I'm bringing up, I've met and I've been friends with, and they're just people that I think are fantastic wrestlers. I've either wrestled them or I've been in the locker room with them, and I think the world of them. You know what I mean? The Cogers,
Mm-hmm.
Don't know much. I've only shared a couple of locker rooms with them, but those two dudes just get it, and they can take so much punishment. And it's like I've done the deathmatch wrestling stuff, never as bad as the deathmatch wrestling is nowadays. I feel like there's deathmatch wrestling, and then there's like today's deathmatch wrestling, and it's like
I get it. I agree. I understand.
like I'm just like like there's like listen, I'll wrestle in barbed wire, light tubes, thumbtacks all day long. You keep me away from cinder blocks and syringes, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that light tubes and barbed wire and thumbtacks. That's enough. That's plenty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, and that's the thing. People are finding new ways to fucking do it, and that's fine. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think that that's something I want to do.
I hear you. I hear you.
Although I do like the skewer spot. So
I hear
thank
you.
you,
I
Masada,
understand.
for that one.
Oh, it's all fun to watch, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's wild out there. You'd mentioned Matt Connard. I'm glad you brought it up. That gives me another easy plug here. Coming up soon, RSW. Matt Connard challenging Remy LeVay for the RSW Championship.
Oh,
Don't. Yeah.
that's gonna be a fucking match, bro.
Ooh, can't wait. I don't have the
Those
date in
two,
front of me, but my God, get on
yeah,
the RSW Facebook page and find out where it's
absolutely.
at. Oh yeah, it's gonna
Those
be
two are
good.
both incredible, and I'm
Incredible.
sure that'll be a fucking that's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, yeah. Tim knows what he's doing when it comes to making these matches. And let's circle back to that. You'd mentioned Tim might not like your attitude, this and that. I'm going to take up for Tim on that one. Tim, we're pretty damn close in RSW. And again, I'm new, so I'm sure all locker rooms and all companies are close. But hell, we brought in other people. We brought in some outsiders, if you will, for our tag tournament last Saturday, or a couple Saturdays back, and that show ran to almost midnight. So, if we booked everybody that we wanted to, we'd be having these long running shows. I will say, though, those fans, not a fan left. I was really impressed by that. Not a fan
That's
left.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And main event, Zeke Mercer, Remy LeVay, RSW title. You can imagine.
Yeah,
So, like I say, Tim has his group. We got people training that, of course,
sure.
you know. And like I say, I'm sure that's the same with other organizations too. But there's always, time to bring some people in here and there. Maybe a battle royal, or hell, maybe we can get Mad Dog tagging with Reznikk in RSW. Mad Dog just joined a stable in RSW. I believe they're going to call themselves the Worst Generation. You'd mentioned, it's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned that he had an eye on DD Vice back in the day, because now he's
Uh-huh.
standing side by side with DD Vice and Marcus Twist. So.
Yeah, he told me about that. So, I mean, it's funny because he kind of, after the good guys kind of stopped doing stuff, he made a joke to me the one day. He's like, man, I've spent the last year establishing myself as a singles guy, and now I'm in two groups and a tag team. And I'm like, because you like being with your friends, man. That's what it comes down to, So, you know what I
Hey.
mean? So, I mean, I get it too. And that's the other thing too. Like for me, it's one of those things where it's like, I've spent so much time, trying to get in, like I've spent so much time being a little bit different, but I've spent so much time being in shitty shape and trying to get back into good shape, wrestling singles matches. And now that I'm finally to the point where I can wrestle a singles match and not be completely dead by the time I'm done with it. And now I'm going back to working tag stuff. So,
Well, hey,
but I've always been a tag team guy. Like if you look at my resume, and again, like I said, the cage match stuff is a little bit out of date because there wasn't a lot of stuff that was updated. But I mean, if you look at the tag, I've been in two long-term tag teams, so to speak. One really long-term tag team way back in the day. One decently long-term tag team shortly after that, and then I had a short tag team run, a few years back before before COVID, and a little bit before that. So I've always been a tag guy. For the most part, the single stuff that I've done has been pretty limited. I had the cult leader stuff in Black Diamond that was really popular, and I really felt like I should have gotten more opportunities to win that, or to be the Black Diamond heavyweight title championship then.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I came back and I beat Nathan for the title, and I was I felt super what's the word I'm looking for? Like I felt super justified, you know what I mean, for coming back, because it was one of those things where it's like I finally felt like I gotten something, was getting my just dessert or just due or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also not in the best shape back then, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's just like, I had the RPW heavyweight title back when it was back in the bar days, you know what I mean? And then when we moved to Youngstown, I lost it and I never really got it back. I never really got back to that point. But, I've had way more tag teams and way more tag team titles and things like that than I ever did singles. And I prefer tag team wrestling. I think I love tag team wrestling. I've always been a tag team wrestling fan. If you look at, I always say that my favorite wrestler, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Bubba Ray Dudley. I know he's an asshole. I don't care.
Right.
The Dudley Boys were my team, man. Like I remember when I first got my own internet service provider, it was an MSN internet, and my email address was dudleydeathdrop@msn.com, and I actually had somebody email me thinking that I was them, and I was like, whoa, calm down now. But they were my guys, you know what I mean? So I've always been into the tag team stuff, and I've always felt tag team wrestling didn't get its just desserts and didn't get what it was due.
Yeah.
The problem with tag team wrestling on the independents is you can't just be in a tag team with just anybody. You have to be in a tag team with somebody that you're friends with, you know what I mean? Or somebody that you love and care about, you know what I mean? Like I've always said, somebody said being with a tag team is like being in a marriage, and that's not wrong, you know what I mean? So that's why you don't get a lot of really good tag teams. When you finally get a good tag team, you kind of have to keep it that way.
Right on.
So.
That's a good point. And I'll have to give props to AEW again for bringing back tag team wrestling to kind of legitimize it a little bit. Because
I agree. Not always a big fan of some of the stuff that I wasn't a big fan of their weird pairing of Swerve and fucking Keith Lee, but aside from that, they've been really good with their tag teams. They put a lot of time and effort into tag teams, and I'll give them all the credit in the world. I love FTR. You know what I mean? I want to see what they're going to do. Like, I feel like they're probably going to stay in AEW, but I'd love to see them go back to WWE, especially under the Triple H run, because I think they do fantastic there now.
Sure.
But I've always been a fan of tag team wrestling. It's so creative. You could do things so creatively. You can only do so much in a singles atmosphere, but in tag team wrestling, you can make things happen. You can be creative, and I love that shit.
Yeah. Going back to the RSW tournament, there were so many different matches, even though they were tag team matches, and no match was alike. So on that note, I've kept you on over an hour. Let's circle back around. Let's go back to the tag team tournament you're competing in this weekend. Yep. What can you tell the folks what to expect? Any final words you have for the audience? Plug your socials. Plug any merch you want to sell. Whatever. The floor is yours to finish this bad boy up.
So I mean, listen, the Eli Thomas Tag Team Memorial Tournament is something that I'm trying to pack I'm trying to pack this place. I'm trying to get as many people as I can there, because I want people, not even just for me wrestling or for the fact that I get to compete in this tournament, but just to honor the man, because he was a great dude and he was fantastic. And I love seeing people come out to pay respect and to for that guy. But I mean, as far as the tournament is concerned, me and Zach, we're gonna, I keep putting out on socials, I keep putting out on my Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. Sean Reznikk on Facebook. My Twitter is more like me. I don't really have a Twitter that's mainly set for the Reznikk. Because I play a lot of video games, so I kind of like do more. I have like a video game handle that I use for my Twitter. So I don't really want to go into that one, but okay. Sean Reznikk on Facebook is where you can see most of my stuff. I don't really post there a lot because I only really work one place right now. But yeah. As far as the tournament is concerned, the match is concerned, this is going to be a great honor for me to do this tournament. And if I have my way, Zach and I will be standing tall at the end of it. And I feel like we've got a really good chance because we're legitimately friends. And I think that makes us more dangerous than anybody else in that tournament.
Hell yeah. And I'm pulling for you guys. You've been super cool to me. You didn't know me from Adam, but if I ever needed a little bit of PC gaming advice here or there, you've reached out to me on Facebook. Make sure you accept my friend request on your Reznikk account as well. That
I
way I can
did.
tag you when I
I did.
post this. Okay, cool. I will tag you
Yeah.
whenever we post this. To the listeners, though, Eli Thomas Memorial Tag Team Tournament coming up Saturday, March 25th. Let me give you
Yep.
the address. 421.5 North Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio. It looks like it's
Yeah.
going to be a
Yeah.
good time.
It's by the jail, so you'll know it. But you'll know if
Okay.
you get near there that you're in the right place.
Oh, yeah. And we do have one fan question for you before you go. Uh,
Okay.
Put it on Facebook. And the great Ronnie Starks. If you're familiar with the
Oh,
great Ronnie
Christ, I
Starks.
can only imagine what this one's going to be.
Not as bad as I thought it would be, but an interesting one. What is your favorite tattoo on your body and why?
So I would say out of all the tattoos that I have, I think I have three. There are three. There are three tattoos specifically that I absolutely adore and I love more than anything else, and for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
My Thor's hammer here. It's kind of I don't. Yeah, there it goes. My
Okay.
Thor's hammer right here. And my Mjolnir there. The reason for that being is because one of the reasons I put it there, total wrestling reason. So my finish, my lariat, so to speak, is
Mm-hmm.
called the Hammer of Dawn, which is a Gears of War reference. Which yeah,
Nice.
there's that. But that's a Gears of War reference. But but because it's a lariat, I think it's the perfect name for it. And I put it there because I'm right-handed, and that's what I crack you across the chest with that spot on my arm. So that's why I put it there. And I've never been a Thor fan throughout the comic books, but I love Mjolnir. I think it represents, represents strength. It represents power. So that's one of them. Another one is, oh gosh, what am I talking about here? That's one of the big ones. Another one would be the Live Strong style here. I know it's going to be backwards on there. That's something that came from my trainer Nikita Alanov. It was something that he started playing around with, and I love the word for it. I'm probably going to get strong style tattooed across my stomach.
Nice.
To me, it's more than just a wrestling style in Japan. You know what I mean? It just represents my life, so to speak. And so I love that one. And then probably aside from those two, I have the Skyrim dragon on this arm because I really got into Skyrim real big. My dragon dagger from the Power Rangers.
Okay.
Probably that my Black Lantern tattoo, which is my first one. This is my first tattoo. This one right here,
Nice.
and technically I have it tattooed on me 3 times. I've got it right there on my pinky. I've got a version of it on my back as well in a bigger piece.
Nice.
I've kind of adopted that as my wrestling symbol. It's like my logo, and it's the Lantern Core of Death, and I think that's just simply because I'm not afraid of much, but death is one thing that scares the shit out of me. So I figure if I adopt things from death,
mm-hmm.
if I adopt things like that, then it'll make it a little bit easier on me, and it won't be I won't be afraid of it so much.
Hell yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Back to the Black Lantern ring. I was never a huge Green Lantern fan, but one of my favorite.
Me neither.
But I don't know if you read Darkest Night or Darkest Day. It was a storyline. Oh man, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah,
stuff.
so I got turned on to that. I got turned on to that by my buddy Peyton Graham, who just recently had a kid and retired from wrestling. He used the red one. He used the red one right there next to it.
Okay.
That was his deal, and he was kind of the one that turned me on to it. And I kind of adopted the Black Lantern one, and I just kind of kept along with it because for whatever reason, I just kind of, like I said, took to it, and that was the thing. Like he introduced me to it, and I just kind of took off with it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, we'll get you back in the future so we can find
Absolutely.
out.
I'd love to have me and Zach on at the same time so we could talk about some shit.
Okay. Hey, there we go. I need to get Zach back on anyway. So
Hopefully as RAPW heavyweight or tag team champions.
No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Who's the current RAPW tag team champion?
So it's Blackhawk and it's black. It's the team name is Black and Miles. It's Blackhawk, Black and Miles. Yeah, it's Blackhawk, who he's been a mainstay out in the Akron area for a long time. Big dude, good dude. I can't wait to pin him one day. But yeah, and then and then Mr. Too Damn Thick is the other guy. And Miles Jacobs is his name. He's big boy. He's a nice big boy. And those are the current tag team champions. They're in the tournament. They're facing the Bouncer and Kit Page in round 1. We'll see how that goes. But I wouldn't mind facing them in the tournament. I believe they would be on the opposite brackets as us. So if we were going to face them, I believe it would only be in the finals. And I'd love for that to be the case because I'd love to beat them 2 weeks in a row, or 2 shows in a row to win the heavyweight, to win the tag team titles.
Hell yeah. You beat them in the tournament, of course you get the title shot, okay? But let's say something crazy happens and you lose that tag team title match. Well, it could be argued, yeah, we beat him in the tournament. It can be done. Give me one more shot. But
absolutely,
I don't think we have to go that far. I think you guys got this one in the bag.
Yeah, we'll see. They haven't been a tag team for very long. They haven't known each other for very long, whereas me and Zach have been friends for years. So
good. Hell yeah. There's a lot to be excited for. You got that tag team tournament coming up, King of the Juniors, this Saturday. If you ain't watching wrestling, if you can't make it to shows and you're just a fan of the podcast, well, shit. Coming up tomorrow, we've got the RSW Tag Team Champions, Brotherly Love. After that, Thursday night, a live panel looking ahead at Saturday's show. We've got so much stuff coming down the pike. Mr. Reznikk, I thank you, sir. I'll ask you to hang on here with me after I let the folks go so I can ask you about Steam and we can talk video games for a moment before I go to bed. But to my listeners, to my listeners, you know how we do. Treat each other nicely. Treat each other fair. Don't take no shit, though. Go out there and live your dreams. Shit, you never know. You just never know. I'm Spooky Lou. Go out, check out the tag tournament this weekend if you're in the area. And if you're in the West Virginia area, come on down to the King of the Juniors from RSW. Spooky Lou loves you. Unfortunately, Marcus Twist will join us on the next episode, so stay tuned for that. I'll let you go.